Hey everyone, George here and welcome back to the channel. So a lot of you have been asking me about this particular tank here. It's one of the tanks that you see a majority of the time in my videos. And I kind of want to give you an update on this tank because people have been asking me about the transition here. I wanted to go through it with you a little bit here. So this is a 65 gallon, it's a long, it's pretty deep. And right now, as you can see, there are some discus fish in here, but these are discus fish that are temporary. This is not what is going to go in this tank long term. We do plan on putting some electric blue Acaras in here. So a little bit larger blue cichlid, but not discus any longer. I'm going to be shipping these off to someone who is a subscriber, along with some other discus that I have, and so this is going to free up this tank to have a new centerpiece fish in here. So what I've basically done here is we went with a sand look with a little bit of maple stone, which is really nice, and a piece of wood in here, which is basically just some spider wood, some bigger pieces of spider wood. They're very seasoned pieces, so no issues with that. But the maple stone looks really nice here, and we put off some little drop-off little pieces here to make it look a little bit more natural. And basically all we've used in here as far as plants go are Java fern and different varieties of anubias. There are a couple of swords here in the corners. I'm not sure how well they're going to do. I do have a second light coming. It was rather bright when I was doing videos, so I was concerned about that. So I've got a different kind of light coming here. It's the same as this one, and we'll spread this out a little bit more and give the tank a little bit more brightness all through the tank instead of having these dark ends here, which I kind of like in a way because it does highlight the island type setup that we have, but at the same time I want the plants to do well also. Now these plants are all very, very low maintenance plants. As you know, if you're familiar with Anubias, they're low maintenance in the sense that they do not need a lot of light and they do not need to be in a substrate. They are free floating plants, or basically what I've done here is I've either glued down to the rocks, or I've just wedged them in between the wood and the rock, and that's what's holding them in place, and there is no issues with that. They're doing really, really well. This has been set up almost a month now. You just haven't seen me highlight it very much because I haven't been putting out a ton of videos that actually have me in the videos. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to explain this to you. Now, the top on this is basically a solid, well, it's not solid, but I mean it's got a bend in the middle here, but it slides back, so easy to feed, easy to clean, easy to remove this as well. This, you know, within minutes you can have this thing off, and you're basically able to clean it and do a good job of maintaining the tank as well. Now also what I have in here are, I have I think 10 Julie Cories in here, which I love the Julies. They're nice looking fish. They look nice against the white sand. And we also have, for our schooling fish, some bloodfin tetras, which I have found do very, very well in these community tanks with cichlids. The discus don't attack them. They don't seem to find them attractive as far as attacking them go. I've talked a little bit about this in previous videos, that I don't like the neons in here or some of the smaller tetras that, you know, if they got bigger they would be okay, but you can't typically get big neon tetras. The other option for something like this would be a black neon, which I think is a wonderful fish for this kind of a community tank, and also the rummy nose tetra. Those guys do well in this particular situation. So I wanted to kind of bring you up to date here. Now, this is a 65 gallon, and it's very long, as you can see here, and it's very deep. So there's a lot of room in here to do a lot of fun things with. As I said, the discus will go, and we will be putting them in another tank until I get them shipped off to a subscriber who wanted to purchase them from me, and we're going to be doing that. I haven't been feeling good the last couple of days. I had hoped to get these guys shipped today, but we'll not get to that until Monday. But we are not going to be having discus in this tank any longer, which I think is going to be a nice thing, so that when we start our podcast, we're going to have this as our background. And of course, you know, I'll be facing this direction, and this will be a nice background for you guys to look at when we're doing our podcast on Thursday nights, which keep in mind that's coming up in a couple of weeks here. We were trying to launch that the second week of November, but we got behind a little bit here because stuff did not show up in time. It's been hard to get certain things, so just know that I'm not delaying on purpose here, but we are having some issues with getting some things. But I love this island style. It's one of my favorites. I don't use it in all of my tanks, as you know from the past. I've had every kind of tank, and I've done every kind of scape that you can think of. And this particular one for these kinds of tanks I like, because you've got a lot of open area for larger fish to move around, or schooling fish. As you can see, these guys are all schooling over in this area here. There might be a few here and there that you know, wander off, but for the most part, bloodfin tetras are very tight schooling fish, and they move kind of in sync with each other. They're not as tight as a rummy nose tetra. They're not as tight as maybe I'm trying to think of the black neons or regular neon tetras and that kind of thing. But for the most part, they're pretty good schoolers together. They stay in a pretty good group most of the time. You'll see a few wandering around, but not a big deal. As far as pH in this tank right now, we're running about 7.8, which is kind of perfect. It's very, most of these fish have been raised in tanks anyway, and the pHs have been all over the place, and so far they have done really well in this 7.8 environment. Most of my discus are in a 7.8 environment, all hybrids. I don't have any wilds right now. Well, that's not true. I do have a couple of wilds mixed in with some hybrids in one of my larger tanks in another fish room that I have, and they do extremely well with the hybrids and seem to adapt very well to the 7.8 pH in those systems. Now, I'm running 0 ammonia, 0 nitrites, and very, very small. I think it's 0.7 parts per million on the nitrates. So just enough to show you that the tank is actually cycling and continues to cycle the way it's supposed to. When I see tanks drop down to 0 parts of nitrates, it doesn't bother me too much. There are some concerns that you got to keep an eye on that a little bit, because if everything's at 0, you can all of a sudden have a crash, and that can be a problem. So you want to pay attention and watch out for that a little bit. But I did want to highlight this tank. This light on here is made by Fluval. It's I cannot remember the name of the light. I will leave that in the description down below, so that if you're interested in this, it's a fantastic light. You can program it, do anything you want with it as far as having it come on and off. You can have it do lightning flashes. You can have it go off during the day and dim slightly as if there were cloud cover and that sort of thing. And all kinds of interesting little things that you can do with this light. So I like this light in that sense. They're not overly expensive, but I don't think you need to have overly expensive lights on a freshwater tank like this. We're not talking about marine life and stuff like that. We're talking about basically making sure that your plants are getting enough light to stay healthy, and also making sure that that you have a light that you don't have to do a lot of maintenance on as far as turning it off and on. It basically can get programmed and do its own thing based on what you want it to do, and you can just kind of set it and forget it and not worry about it. Now, the sand in here is just some basic white sand. I like that look because it gives a nice contrast against everything else that's around it, but doesn't make it look so sterile that it's not believable. In other words, you're not going to obviously see this in the wild, but there's a lot of tanks that I look at and I just think that does not look natural to me. Now we've got the rule of thirds going in this direction here. The golden ratio, if those of you who are not familiar with the rule of thirds, the golden ratio, it's basically where the eye looks at this and brings it in a certain direction. We've done that here and it looks really, really good. Now, I wanted to actually do this video for you when we were changing this over, but it ended up being that I got kind of sick and I had one of my co-workers help me get this thing in shape. I just came out of something that I've had for a couple weeks and I wanted to get this thing done because this podcast is coming up and I wanted to make sure that this thing was done before we get that podcast rolling. Anyways, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. I hope that I've explained a little bit more about this particular tank and it gives you a little bit of an idea. I did a short on this tank here a couple of days ago and people seemed to like it, and there was a lot of questions being asked about it and what kind of tank it was, number one, and number two, you know, why did I use this particular design? They really like it, but you know, how could they do it and that kind of thing. This is very, very easy to do. Picking out the rock that you want, picking out a nice piece of wood where the rock and the wood can all kind of come together and look like it's a more natural environment is very, very helpful. So thank you again for joining me today. I appreciate it. If you have any other questions on this particular tank, let me know and I will be glad to get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. As I said, there's going to be some electric blue Acaras in here, and I think they're going to be absolutely beautiful fish. They get to be 4 inches, 4.5 inches, something like that. So easily they're going to do well in here. There's going to be 4 of those in here, and we may have some pair off, and that will be something we'll have to deal with down the road. But we right now are getting some young ones that we're going to be putting in here. I think they're about 2.5 inches. So it's going to be a while before they're going to pair off, if they do at all, and that'll be interesting to see. Somebody did ask me the temperature of this tank. Right now we're running this at about 84 degrees. He was running this at around 86, but dropped it down to 84 because we don't want the plants melting and that sort of thing. It gets a little bit too warm for some of these plants, and we don't want that to be a situation where we find that some of the plants are melting and that kind of thing. So anyways, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share with your friends. Channel is growing. I appreciate so much all of you. And again, if you have questions, leave them down below here. I will put the information regarding this fluval light in the description area down below or in the comment section, and give you an opportunity to know exactly what we're using here. As far as filtration goes, I didn't want to miss on that either. We are using a canister filter down here, which I'm not going to be able to show you because it's way back in here, but it is the 6 series canister filter by Owase, and I really, really like it. We actually have a supplemental pump over here as well, which is, I think, the 200 series, just in case we have any problems. We've got a backup system here going. So that should really cover it for you. If, again, you have any questions, let me know. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you on the next one. Until then, we're out of here.